My question is to the leader. Leader, I was very pleased to see that the development minister, Minister Bibo, has brought in a so-called feminist development policy, and from what I can see, it means reaching out to women. You who are privy to these things, can you explain exactly what a feminist development policy is all about?
Harder.
I thank the Honourable Senator for her question and for highlighting the very significant statement that was made by the Minister of International Development recently as part of the foreign policy repositioning of this government from Minister Freeland to the Minister of Defence to also the Minister of International Assistance. It is the position of the government that is putting forward a feminist international assistance policy to promote greater gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. For Canada, we view this as the best way to reduce poverty and create a world that is more inclusive, more peaceful, and more prosperous. The decision to adopt this feminist policy is based on the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable, the results of an extensive consultation process with Canadians and with the international community, the evidence that has been developed within the development industry, as well as to reflect Canadian values and expertise. We also know that women and girls are the poorest and also the most vulnerable to poverty, violence, and even climate change. But when we give them the means to develop their full potential, they become powerful agents of change, development, and peace, and everyone benefits from their actions, their communities, men, boys, and other vulnerable groups. The final point I'd simply make is that the budget has allocated to projects dedicated to promoting gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls be increased from 2% to 15% over 5 years, with a commitment of $650 million over 3 years. The government is doubling its investment in sexual and reproductive health rights. We are significantly improving as a government maternal and newborn health.
Senator Jaffer.
Leader, when I read what the minister is trying to do, I couldn't help but feel real pride because when I go to work in the summer to see how, because it's the women who do the development work, and now we are empowering them, and that's a very good thing. Where I'm having difficulty and would appreciate you clarifying this is that we now have a feminist development or international aid policy. Is our foreign policy the same?
I thank the Honourable Senator for her question, and this is a bit of a follow-up from the question that she posed last week. It is certainly the view of the Government of Canada that the three policy thrusts are mutually reinforcing, and as the Minister of Foreign Affairs made clear in her presentation, the priorities of the government are integrated, and I could cite further directions in international development assistance, which were alluded to but not fleshed out entirely in Minister Freeland's speech. So yes, they are integrated and part of a whole of the government's approach to international development, foreign policy, foreign aid, and indeed defense.
Senator Jaffer.
Leader, I said, and I genuinely mean it, I'm so happy with what Minister Bibo has done. And I know you and I are reading the foreign policy statement differently, but I, again, after what you said, went and looked at the statement very carefully, and I only saw the word women a few times. And what really disappointed me on the foreign policy part was that we are in the forefront. We in 2000 were the country that fought for women, peace and security and Resolution 1325. And it seems like that women empowerment has completely disappeared. Am I correct on that?
Harder.
Thanks, Senator Jaffer, for your question. I wouldn't want to say you're incorrect because that would be impolite, but it's certainly the view of the Government of Canada that one department, Global Affairs, encompasses all of the instruments of the Government of Canada from a policy point of view, and they are coherent and integrated, and that very much a feminist policy that is particularly articulated on the development side within the umbrella provided by the Minister of Foreign Affairs is the very heart of the government's international